Hey, welcome back. Part two. Come along for the journey of my 24 years in franchising successfully.
This is the Franchise Pitfalls and Profit Show. Each week, we bring you the challenges and triumphs of being in the franchise development and consulting business. The things you need to make money faster. And now your host, one of the most successful franchise developers in North America, Don Shin.
Hey, welcome back. I thought it would be interesting and useful and helpful to share my journey in franchising with you. I want to be sure you learn from my experiences so you don't have to go through some of the things I went through. And regardless of whether you're on the buyer side, you're looking to start a business through franchising, you're looking to own your own business, or whether you are involved in helping people along the way through that journey. You're a seller, you're a franchise developer, you're a franchise consultant. Either side of the equation, I'm hoping that you can listen to the things that I'm going to be sharing, the key points, and so that you can be either better educated to make the purchase and step into the world of business ownership through franchising, or help those along the way who are doing that. So in part one, I talked about the fact that there is positive and negative influencers, and you want to recognize those for the dissatisfaction, the enormous dissatisfaction sometimes, which was a lot of mine, but also painting the picture of the future, having a view and a vision and a purpose for the future, and why you're doing this for the positive reasons, recognizing that both of those things will influence your choices. The second part of what I shared in part one of this journey is that many people will relate to my background in a corporate world. Maybe you've been as successful or more successful than I ever was, or maybe you've had a middle manager career and you've been comfortable there. But the reality is, at some point, I shouldn't say most, many people reach a point where they're done. And I like to express it like that. I am done with this. I don't care if somebody would have offered me a job. I don't believe that I would have taken it. So I was not even interviewing. I find in what I do as a business franchise consultant, I talk to folks and they are still interviewing. And I always say, well, you don't want to start a business as a second choice, as a fallback, as a thoughtfully or thinking it's a safety net that you can land in if you don't get a job. That's not a good way to step into business ownership. So I will tell you that my journey, my background, I was done with the corporate environment. I was tired of working my tail off for someone else. Yeah, I owned stock in the company, but it was minimal compared to the effort I was putting in. So, negative and positive influencers, and recognize them. Recognize your dissatisfaction with your picture of the future, your vision. Recognize the impact corporate life can have on you. And then the third thing I think was just the reality of not being able to do a business, start a business of my own, something where I had to create the concept. I had to create everything in that business. We don't always recognize, because we've just always been employed, we don't always recognize all of the facets going on in a business, in an existing, ongoing, running business, that we would have to put into something if we would start our own business from scratch, start it on our own. So the third component here is to recognize, be honest with yourself. Can I really start a business from scratch? Or do I need a franchise model? Do I need a concept? And I think the only way you can realistically make that decision is by getting some help, get some advice, have some advisors around you. I had personal friends that were doing a good job of helping me, and that's good, but get professional help in this space. Educate yourself. There aren't all that many things out there in this world, and I'm going to share one of them. That is something that our company has developed, but educate yourself about the options of franchising and the options of how you do the due diligence and what you need to be considering if you are to choose a franchise. So get some help in some fashion, educate yourself, get an advisor, get some career coaching and career help. It helped me with what should I do, the concept. It also helped me long term because the franchise company gave me training and it also gave me ongoing support, both of which were huge things to me in my corporate life. So that was part one. Wanted to bring you up to speed quickly on part one. Part two, which is today, the first thing I want to talk about is the impact on your family, the impact on those around you. Very similar to you having taken another job or advanced your career and had to move, different dynamics, maybe of travel, those kinds of things. Excuse me. The impact on the family is something I think is vital to you making a successful choice on business ownership and franchising or not. So I encourage you to bring those people, bring the family into the decision-making process. In particular, first of all, you really need their support. You don't want to come home every day and get pushback or negative feelings because at times, honestly, you're going to come home because the business or the marketplace kicked you in the stomach. And so you want to be sure you're coming home to the positive, supportive environment. And that will typically start with your spouse. So if you're married or you have a significant other, that's going to be the first place to go. And, honestly, who knows you better than that person when you're making big life and career choices? So I encourage you early on, and as much as is physically possible, time-wise possible, bring your spouse or significant other into the flow, into the decision-making process, into the information gathering experience. You can also bring children in if they're adults, adult children. I had this situation I learned the hard way with someone I was working with, had not recognized as I was helping him into business for himself as a next career, had not recognized that he had really not brought the family much into this. The family in general had, particularly his spouse, had said, honey, whatever you would like to do as your second career, we're all happy and taken care of and so on with the first company, the first two companies we own. Go ahead, I'll support you. But when it came down to it, they did not. And in fact, they revolted and cornered him one weekend and totally talked him out of his dreams for his second career and another station in life for him. It was sad because he really wanted to have an impact in a different way. And my helping him as a franchise consultant was giving him those options and being sure he was put in the right place, in the right brand. So get your family involved, depending on the age of certainly the age of your children, but please get your spouse or significant other involved. A second piece of part two here today I wanted to speak to is the due diligence process. Once you start to look at certain franchise concepts or franchise companies, you want to look at a few specific things. And that is a whole nother field, a whole nother issue. And my podcasts are really trying to help you around this on an ongoing basis. And certainly some of the resources I'm sharing in the scroll here are going to help you in these areas. But there's two things about the due diligence that I think are easily overlooked by people who investigate franchises. So one of them is to look at the most successful people in that brand and try to figure out why are they successful in this brand. And also look at yourself and go, do I have that person's characteristics? Can you look at that person and somewhat feel like you're looking in a mirror? In other words, here's a path that's very successful with this brand. And could I see myself on that path? Now, there's something to be said to find out about the failures, but in my 24 years of helping people in the business for themselves, I often come across people who say, "Hey, I want to talk to people, those that have closed your business, those that have not been successful." And I just kind of have to shake my sure, it's in the franchise disclosure document. Sure, go ahead and do that. But at the end of the day, do you really want to look at failed people and get discouraged about something you think you might be interested in doing? Or do you want to look for and see whether you could do the things that the successful people are doing? So I encourage you to look mostly at the successful people in the business and why are they successful, and do you see yourself as being that successful? The second piece that I think is often missed is leadership. Meet the leadership. Can you follow these people? Do they project that they have a vision for where the company is going? Do they project that they have an understanding of the marketplace and the dynamics and the things that are changing over the next 5 to 10 years? And so look at the leadership. I've been told stories over my years of people that bought a franchise because they loved the concept, thought they could do it well, but they were kind of sketchy on and uncertain about the leadership, but they bought the franchise anyway. I encourage you not to do that. I'm certain there's a second and a third and a fourth brand that does the same thing. So look for those. If you really feel you love the concept or love an industry, but you don't like the leadership of a particular brand, go find an alternate company that does this, because you're going to want to feel like that you can follow, and you want to be able to, if you purchase the franchise, you want to be able to follow the leadership of the company and have confidence in them in the long term. The other part of leadership I always share is that I think there's two things in the bio section, the biography sections of the FDDs. There's two things I think you want to look for in that leadership, even prior to meeting them. And that is, what type of experience does the leadership team have? Do they have industry experience in particular? And you would certainly hope that they do, although there are some franchises, believe it or not, people start this franchise, they have an idea about it, they start the franchise, and have no experience in that space. But the second part is, do they have franchising industry experience? Because franchising is another type of business. Yes, it's a model for you to get into franchising for yourself, but can you see that they have franchise industry experience already in the leadership team? And it doesn't have to be every one of them, but in the FDD, there will be a section that very specifically highlights the top executives, all of the really people you want to count on, the real leadership, owners, founders, and other significant leaders. And so do they have industry experience as well as franchising experience on the team? So what impact will your decision have on your family? Doing the due diligence, leadership, and looking at successful people in that brand and whether you see yourself like them. The third piece, a third piece is transferable skills. It's very unlikely that you would go down the franchising route with a lot of experience in that space or in that industry. Restaurants, probably the exception. The few restaurants that I've dealt with typically have looked for, and I'm talking pure restaurants, not necessarily like a froyo or something of that nature, but I'm talking pure restaurants. Most of the time, those franchisors want to see you have franchise experience or partnering with someone, pardon me, restaurant industry experience. And second of all, maybe partnering with someone if they like you and they see you being able to grow this business and do well in their franchise, they're going to expect you to partner with someone who has the restaurant experience. So, but every other franchise, for the most part, the great thing about franchising is you could actually change industries, get into a space and a category in an industry that you believe you would love to do, or you see it trending in a way that you want to be part of that trend. You're looking then for transferable skills because odds are you're not going to have the experience. And honestly, even a lot of franchises sometimes will even say they don't want you to bring experience in because candidly, you may bring your process in or you may bring in bad habits, and they really don't want you to do that. They want you to follow the system that they've built and know works and is successful. So, but you want to look for transferable skills. So when you're doing your due diligence, ask the franchisors, ask the people, what skill sets do I need to be successful in this business? And many cases you have some or all of those skill sets. So let's say you're looking at a home senior care business, and there's a lot of them, and they're really beginning to niche, whether it's purely companion care and housekeeping type things versus light medical care, nursing, all the way up into 24/7 live-in type experience. So, but the big piece of that is hiring professionals. Most of those people will be professionals. They have to be RNs or, again, whatever the company or the industry requires. So do you have hiring skills? For example, when I came into business, into franchising, I didn't have a lot of hiring skill sets in my 20 years, 20 some years, even my, let's say 12, 14, 15 years of leadership and management. I really had not hired in volume. In a senior care business like that, you may need 20, 25 people on your team, on your staff, and it'll be turnover. In a restaurant business, you're constantly hiring people. So do you have that hiring skill set? Would be something that you'd want to be looking for. So that's just an example. You want to look for transferable skills. What are they? Do you have them? And then lastly, in my part two here is that you in the due diligence and really looking at starting a franchise of your own, buying a franchise and starting it, recognize you're going to need advisors. Certainly been talking about it, franchise consultants who will advise you, match you, investigate your transferable skills, et cetera, et cetera. They'll pull in your spouse and your support arms. But I'm talking beyond that franchise consultant. I'm talking about the other types of advisors you're going to need. One of my prior podcasts interviewed a financial planner. So if you have a significant portfolio, if you have a significant investment nest egg, if you will, You want to look at how could you do this? Should you borrow? Maybe borrow against your securities, or maybe a blend of liquidating some of your securities and funding. SBA is a big way to fund franchises these days. But you're going to need advisors, and if you have a financial planner, you want to bring them into this, and you want to recognize and be sure that you've got a financial planner that is not selfishly going to say, wow, if your portfolio goes down, since I make my money as a percentage of managing a percentage of your monies, your portfolio, my income's going to go down if you liquidate anything. I've actually seen financial planners kill deals when it was the right thing for the person to do the business, but it wasn't the right thing for the financial. So be conscious of that, but hopefully you've got good financial planners helping you, and you want to bring them into this decision because you'll want a blend of potentially liquidating some things versus lending. Another advisor around you that you want to have is to bring in your accountant. You want to look at, for example, again, if you're liquidating some funds to pay for the franchise, you will have tax implications. There are ways to access your 401k without tax implications. So you want someone to advise you down that road. So again, you'll want, if you have a financial planner, bring them in, talk with them. If you have a strong accountant, bring them in. And then another one is an attorney. You're going to most likely want to take the franchise disclosure document, which includes the franchise contract or franchise agreement. You want to have someone legally look at the document, look at what you're getting into, look at your commitments, what you are making commitments to do, look at any downsides or liabilities there. How would you potentially, what actions would be breaking this contract, put you in default? I encourage you in franchising is to have not just a good business attorney, but have a good franchise attorney, because the FDD, the franchise disclosure document, honestly has a lot of boilerplate kind of stuff in it that's required by the government of all franchisors. And you don't want your regular business attorney or your wills and estate planning attorneys running up your meter, running up the charge as they learn what those standard templated things are. The franchise attorney is going to know all of those things. They'll almost always have a set price because they know how much of their time it takes to review the documents. And the franchise attorney is going to know what to look for so that they can inform you well about, based on their experience of reviewing hundreds of FDDs and contracts. You want someone like that who can advise you, what are you getting into? Are there any pitfalls? What are your real commitments here? What are the franchisor's commitments to you? You want someone that understands the lay of the land in franchising that can help you there. So part 2 of our journey together here and my sharing is to talk about the importance of family in your decision, talk about the due diligence process and some of the things that you're just probably not going to really hear from others, which is looking at the leadership and looking at primarily at the successful franchisees. The third piece today was transferable skills. Be genuine about what skill sets you need and what do you have. And then again, lastly, knowing there are advisors that you need to pull in here, in addition to your family and your spouse and the impact it's having on them. There's going to be other professionals beyond your franchise consultant that you want to be sure to bring into this journey with you. So that's part 2 of a 24-year veteran's franchise journey and experience.